You have one new voicemail. The notification blinked innocently on my phone, but the moment I pressed play, a cold dread snaked its way up my spine. It wasn't a voice I recognized. It was a distorted, desperate whisper, seemingly from another time, another place, pleading for help. The words were garbled, lost in a sea of static, but the emotion was crystal clear: terror. And then a name that froze me in place. The name of the old Blackwood Creek Asylum, a place that had been shuttered for over 50 years. This wasn't just a wrong number, it felt like a summons. As a paranormal investigator, I've chased my fair share of whispers and shadows, but this felt different. This felt personal. The message replayed in my head, an obsessive loop of static and fear. I had to know what it meant. I had to go to Blackwood Creek. The asylum stood silhouetted against a bruised, twilight sky, a skeletal ruin of brick and shattered glass. The air around it was heavy, still, and carried the scent of decay and forgotten memories. Pushing open the groaning iron gates, every instinct screamed at me to turn back. But the whisper from the voicemail was louder, pulling me forward. Inside, the silence was deafening, a thick blanket smothering all sound from the outside world. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating peeling paint, overturned gurneys, and the scattered detritus of a place abandoned in a hurry. Dust motes danced in the light like tiny, restless spirits. That's when I heard it again. Not from my phone this time, but from the far end of the long, dark corridor ahead. A whisper, slithering out from the shadows. It was the same desperate, distorted voice, but clearer now, closer. It seemed to be coming from the old patient wards. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the oppressive quiet. I moved deeper into the asylum, my footsteps echoing unnaturally in the vast, empty space. In the patient records room, files were strewn everywhere, their pages yellowed and brittle. I picked one up. The name on the file matched a name I'd managed to decipher from the voicemail. It was the file of a patient named Eleanor Vance, admitted in 1958 and reported deceased under unusual circumstances. As I read, the temperature in the room plummeted. My breath plumed in front of my face. The whispering started again, all around me now, a chorus of faint, mournful sighs. It was as if the very walls were breathing, exhaling the sorrow trapped within them. I felt a presence, a weight in the air that hadn't been there a moment before. Out of the corner of my eye, a shadow detached itself from the deeper darkness of the hallway. It was tall and gaunt, a humanoid shape made of pure blackness, devoid of any features. It just stood there, watching me. I froze, my flashlight beam trembling in my hand. When I blinked, it was gone. But the feeling of being watched intensified, 1,000 unseen eyes boring into my back. I retreated, moving towards the asylum's infirmary, the whispers following me, growing more distinct. They spoke of mistreatment, of cruel experiments, of a doctor whose ambition had twisted into something monstrous. They spoke of Eleanor. They said she never left. The infirmary was a scene of medical horror. Rusted surgical tools lay scattered on trays, and strange, archaic machinery stood like silent torturers. A child's drawing was taped to a wall, a crude stick figure of a little girl holding hands with a tall, shadowy man. A chill that had nothing to do with the cold ran through me. Then, the shadow appeared again. This time, it was at the end of the ward, standing beside an old, iron-framed bed. It was darker than the surrounding shadows, a void in the shape of a man. It didn't move, yet I felt an overwhelming sense of malevolence radiating from it. This was the doctor from the files, the source of the asylum's pain. Suddenly, the equipment in the room whirred to life. Lights flickered violently, and a cacophony of metallic clangs and electrical buzzing filled the air. The whispers rose to a deafening crescendo, a storm of anguish and rage. I stumbled back, my senses overwhelmed. The shadowy figure began to drift towards me, not walking, but gliding over the floor, its form stretching and distorting. "Help me," a clear voice whispered. Right beside my ear, it was Eleanor. I knew then that the voicemail wasn't a lure from the malevolent doctor. It was a cry for help from a trapped spirit, a warning. Eleanor was trying to guide me, to show me the truth of what happened here. The doctor's spirit was a prison, holding her and the others captive in their final moments of terror. I ran, not away from the asylum, but towards the administrative wing. The files had mentioned the doctor's private office. If I was going to fight this thing, I needed to understand it. The shadow pursued me, its presence a wave of icy cold at my back. Doors slammed shut in the corridors behind me, as if the building itself was trying to trap me with it. The doctor's office was surprisingly intact. A heavy oak desk dominated the room, a leather-bound journal lying open on its surface. As my flashlight fell upon the page, I saw his frantic, spidery handwriting. He wasn't just a cruel doctor, he was obsessed with the occult. He believed he could conquer death by tethering spirits to the physical world through pain and fear. He hadn't just mistreated his patients, he had used them in a ritual that went horribly wrong and trapped him here with his victims. As I read the final entry, the shadow filled the doorway. It was larger now, its form coalescing, taking on a more defined, terrifying shape. The air crackled with energy, the room grew impossibly cold. The doctor's spirit was no longer just a shadow. It was a powerful, vengeful entity, and I was in its sanctum, but I wasn't alone. The whispers of the other spirits surged, no longer just mournful, but defiant. They swirled around me, a protective current of spectral energy. Eleanor's voice was the loudest, urging me on, telling me what I had to do. The journal spoke of a focal point, an object he used to anchor himself. A silver locket. I saw it, glinting on the desk. As I lunged for it, the shadowy doctor lunged for me. The force of its approach threw books from shelves and sent papers flying. It was a physical manifestation of pure rage. My fingers closed around the cold metal of the locket just as an invisible force slammed me against the wall. The locket felt strangely warm in my hand. Eleanor's voice filled my mind. Break it. With all my strength, I threw the locket to the floor. As it shattered, a piercing shriek ripped through the asylum, a sound of pure agony and disbelief. It didn't come from my lips, but from the shadow in front of me. Light erupted from the broken pieces of the locket, a brilliant, cleansing white. The shadowy figure convulsed, its form dissolving, being torn apart by the light and the combined will of the spirits it had tormented for so long. It shrieked and writhed, its darkness consumed until nothing was left but a final, fading echo of its malice. As the light subsided, the oppressive cold lifted. The air in the asylum felt lighter, cleaner. The whispers faded, not into silence, but into peaceful sighs of release. I saw faint, shimmering lights rise up through the ceiling, free at last. Walking out of Blackwood Creek Asylum, the first rays of dawn were breaking over the horizon. The world felt new, washed clean. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I hesitated, then looked. It was a notification, not a voicemail, a text message from an unknown number. It contained only 2 words, "Thank you."